Okay, let's move on to Vanderbilt. Their number is set at 2.5, 2-10 a year ago, 0-8 in the conference. Number 119 in the country according to F plus. Number 114 on offense, number 111 on defense. So it was pretty much equally terrible, both sides of the ball. The SP plus projects him to be number 115 in the country. That's out of 131 teams. Pretty sad. Number 109 on offense, number 108 on defense. So essentially the same as a year ago. Clark Lee entering his second season. Now, it is interesting just looking at some of the details of the team. Their quarterback job was won by Mike Wright, who was a high school track star. And they returned, I can't remember his name, but their former starting quarterback basically
Kenny Seals.
Ken Seals basically got beat out by Mike Wright, who it feels like they're maybe leaning into an identity of we're going to run the ball. And I don't hate that for a team who is just trying to win a few games. I don't hate the idea of, even if this guy is maybe not quite the passer the other guy is, like, if there's something we can be good at, let's hitch our horse to that. Let's not try to be decent at everything because we're going to fail. Let's try to be good at one thing. And I kind of like that for a team who's just trying to fight their way back to respectability. The running back, Ramon Davis, was hurt most of last year and is back, so they feel good about that. The receivers, they have a few decent options led by Will Shepard. Their offensive line was terrible last year. Their defense had 9 sacks last year. So the offensive line, the defensive line, that's where it's like pretty bad. And that's going to be the reality most likely of Vanderbilt, as until they're able to up their recruiting level. You're just going to be worse compared to all of your competition, essentially, on the lines. And that's a huge deal. That makes a big difference. Their linebackers will actually be pretty good, I think. They have like 4 names they feel pretty good about: Ethan Barr, and Fernie Orhe, Arrington Truesdell, and the Clemson transfer, Kane Patterson. They have a good cornerback, Jalen Mahoney. Again, I said one good cornerback. Like, so there's pieces, and then there's a whole bunch of holes. That's just kind of the long and short of it. They do play Wake Forest in the non-con, and Sam Hartman is out for a while, so which maybe that gives them a prayer. They play Hawaii and Elon. I feel good about them winning those games. And then the Vegas line makes it seem like the Northern Illinois game is probably a toss-up. Northern Illinois is probably ranked a little higher than them by most of the projection systems, but I kind of feel like they might win that game, and I'm taking Vandy to go over 2.5 because I feel like they have 2 wins you can pretty much pencil in, and I trust them to improve by 10% from last year and get that 3rd win. What about you?
The number at 2.5, when you play 4 non-conference games, you play 4 non-conference. You could schedule legitimately 4 layups. And your number's at 2.5. I think that kind of tells you the state of Vanderbilt football right now. Hawaii, Elon, and Northern Illinois. We have to have those 3 for us to go over. Have to have them.
Yep.
I'm going to take Vanderbilt to go over. Yes, I will do that. I do think it's interesting. It's hard to find positives for this team. Like, yeah, you mentioned that Mike Wright is the quarterback for them this year. He had 8 touchdowns last year. 8. And that wasn't like part-time play. Like, how are we supposed to feel good about this? So Clark Lee comes in from Notre Dame, and he had kind of like Marcus Freeman buzz a little bit, like kind of an up and coming name, we'll say. He was a name that was very well thought of, very respected as a defensive mind. Why did he go to Vanderbilt then? It hasn't been very good. And he came from Notre Dame, and you're familiar with him, but like,
he was a fullback who played for Vanderbilt.
You believe in it.
The only reason he came to Vanderbilt was because he was a player there, I believe. Like, that's the only way they were able to get him. He's an alum.
But so what? Like, so what? Why would you go there if you're going to be this bad? Like, under Coach Mason, they were legitimately competitive. Like, they were. Like, they beat Georgia, Kirby Smart. Well, no, fair enough. But they beat Georgia, Kirby Smart's first year there in 2016. Like that's huge, man. Like imagine how far, like look at how far they've fallen in the last number of years since. And I guess I'm just trying to figure out why. Like I don't really understand why they at one point they were, I believe, 4-0 or 5-0, and they were talking to Alabama about how Alabama has to come to our place and play us, and like they were being real cocky about it. This was back in the day. And then you look at where they are now, like at least then they could be cocky about it, you know?
Yeah.
They're not going to go undefeated in their non-conference. I don't think they have a prayer of beating any SEC team this year. I think they go over in the conference. I mean, maybe you pick off maybe Missouri, maybe you sneak up on someone, but like I really doubt it. So yeah, I guess I'm trying to see where their long-term vision is here, because it's
Hmm.
they've definitely fallen in the last 6-7 years, and it's kind of sad to see.
Yeah, I think part of it is just with Clark Lee making the decision to go there. Obviously, I mentioned he's an alum. He is a different kind of person. He's not your typical football coach, if you will. He's definitely more of an intellectual than a than a get in your face rah rah football coach. And I think it's not shocking to me that he would take that job, just because I feel like he's okay with going to a place where there's going to be low expectations. He can
Mm-hmm.
take his time sort of building something. And, it's Vanderbilt. Like, I don't think they expect to be good at football. They would like to go to a bowl game every other year. And I think that's probably possible in the long run, especially with the new TV money that is going to start coming into the
Fair
SEC.
enough. Fair
I
enough.
I think it was a long play. And
Okay.
it might blow up horribly, but look at it this way. If he goes 2-10 the next 2 years, he's not automatically fired after 3 years of going 2-10. It's Vanderbilt. Like, and so there's some job security there, especially for a guy who went to school there and kind of gets the place. Like, he kind of gets it. Like, it's a smart school and he's a smart guy. Um, so yeah, he didn't go there to light the world on fire immediately. I think it was more of a long play by him, and I think it was a very good hire by Vanderbilt. If I won't say if anybody can turn them into a solid team again, it's him. I won't go that far to say we saw James Franklin
Yeah,
um, do some good things there
he
a
did.
while back, and yeah, I like the hire for them a year ago, and I think that he will continue to. I said a little bit earlier, like if they can get 10% improvement on last year, they might be the type of team that gets 10% better every year under him. And I think if you're Vanderbilt, you're probably okay with that.
Yeah, and I like the point you made too about like the long-term play of it all, because Vanderbilt, if they are able to successfully stay in the SEC, like that is huge. We
Yeah.
don't understand quite how huge that is, the money that they're going to be making. They'll be making more money than some of the top Big 12 schools.
Yeah.
Oregon and Washington are currently out in the cold. Like they're not in the Big 10 yet, at least. We don't know what'll happen, but currently they're not. Vanderbilt will make more money than them. Like
Yeah.
Vanderbilt will, just from a TV rights, just being a part of the SEC will be boosted past a bunch of other programs that they're
Mm-hmm.
way behind.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, in that way, I understand maybe kind of where they're coming from. But yeah, I guess kind of what my point was, you mentioned Franklin and then you mentioned Mason, and those were better years for the Commodores. And they at least competed against other
Mm-hmm.
SEC teams. Whereas this year, I really don't see them competing against almost anyone. I mean, the outside chance they compete against Missouri, but I don't see them beating anyone else.
Yeah. They lost to South Carolina by one a year ago, and get them at home this year. But
Yeah.
again, like South Carolina should be fairly improved. So there's like a prayer, I think. Like there's a couple, like South Carolina, Mizzou, like you have a slight chance. I'll give you a slight chance. Wake Forest without Sam Hartman, I'll give you a slight chance. So
Mm-hmm.
there is some of that. I don't know that they're looking to improve necessarily in the win column as much as can we recruit solidly. They made some interesting hires, like Barton Simmons, the
Yeah.
recruiting guy. Like
Yeah.
their last recruiting class, they brought in like three quarterbacks. Like, and I like that. Like, if you're Vanderbilt, why wouldn't you do that? Like, take
Yeah.
some chances like that. Like, one of those guys is going to hit, right? Surely. And I think because of some of that off-field stuff they have because of the money that's going to be coming in more and more.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I think they can build something from the ground up, maybe build the lines better and better slowly. They might become that team that has a bunch of fifth-year seniors every year
Yeah.
and is just disciplined and wins 6 games. Like I could see that becoming the thing in 3 years. It's not going to be
It's pro-
reality this year.
I think it's probably more likely Vanderbilt just takes all of that money that comes in and just puts it into building like more science labs or something.
And
Like
a
I could just
baseball team.
easily see them. Yeah, yeah. Well, fair enough. Like they're gonna take all the money from football and just use it to for like other things and they just keep
Yeah.
like they don't really care about their football program. They used to have a decent basketball program. Their baseball team is stellar. So yeah, maybe that's where the money goes. But they will have a I think a leg up on a lot of other non-SEC teams that they're kind of in the same realm with. I think
Yeah.
the money coming in will be huge for Vandy.
For the commitment to football aspect, I do think it might help them to have a Clark Lee who played football there and is a very likable personality as far as just I would see him relating to Vanderbilt people well.
Yeah.
So I think if he's a meathead football coach and you're the Vanderbilt president, like you're probably thinking twice about putting more money into football. I think Clark Lee might be the personality that they might be okay with supporting a little more. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.